Don't get me wrong, I do love my job, and to be perfectly honest with you, I have never regretted spending over 10 years of my life training in piano performance, a journey that has led me to play in some of the greatest concert halls. Once a pianist was asked why they perform, and their response was, "I feel most alive on stage." I can relate to that 100%. Very few experiences in life compare to the intensity of performing live. If you are well trained, both professionally and mentally, to handle the stress and to overcome the fear of embarrassment on stage, something incredible can happen. If you learn how to channel that stress, you might enter a state of flow where everything just clicks. That moment can easily be the most powerful emotional high of your life, and yes, even more exhilarating than when your crush in the 6th grade finally gave you that special look. It's a unique mix: excitement, stress, adrenaline, the fear of failure, the drive to do your absolute best, as well as the deep desire to share the music you love with others. There is also the natural human craving for approval and admiration. In other words, live piano performance offers an incredible payoff, one that for some outweighs all that nasty stuff that I am about to share. But in this video, I'm going to talk about less glamorous side of the profession, the tough, painful, embarrassing aspects that every emerging musician needs to be aware of. And I know that this video is going to be a little bit dark and kind of pessimistic, but those are real things one should be aware of, and I feel that someone has to say this aloud. Not everyone is fortunate to have wise, supporting parents or kind, empathetic music teacher. Many don't receive gentle feedback from jury members and experts. Very often it can be very rough and very humiliating. And a lot of artists experience trauma somewhere along the way, and some don't even realize that their stage anxiety,
I really don't want to play, you know.
Depression, or self-destructive habits might stem from a toxic experience they once had.
It was like that with Reiner. Some people cracked.
For example, a fear of embarrassment caused by trauma can be a major cause of stage anxiety. So if you struggle with stage fright, it's crucial to explore that fear deeply, ideally with the help of a therapist or an experienced coach. If there's one thing I regret about my professional development, is not starting a therapy when I was in my early 20s. This year I decided to take kind of a sabbatical from performing. I'm not chasing any performing opportunities and have only a few public appearances with friends and my wife, and nevertheless, I still have typical nightmares of a concert pianist from time to time. Similar to that real-life experience of Maria Joao Pires when she went on stage and the orchestra started to play not the concerto she was expecting. Let me know in the comments, please, if you also have those scary dreams about going on stage unprepared. If you are a casual music lover, you might know a few names such as Barenboim, Yu Jiawang, Argerich, and maybe a few others. But in reality, we have a huge number of great music universities and obscenely talented, ambitious young people. We have hundreds of pianists who are just as skilled and well-trained as star pianists, but the majority of you will never hear about them. Most will give up on building a big career due to poor demand and resistance from so-called gatekeepers.
And there's room for one more, till the end of creation.
And I'll tell you in a moment about those beasts. To understand the scale of the disaster, here's a wiki page listing music universities. I was too lazy to count them all, and when I asked ChatGPT, it said the prompt was simply too long, but you get the idea. Not all of these schools are top tiers, but at least 30% of them are good enough to produce one high-level concert pianist per year. And about 10% of best schools are producing 5 or more each year. This is why competitions like Clyburn or Chopin or dozens of others receive hundreds of very strong applications despite being insanely tough. This creates a situation where concert organizers have an incredible advantage over performers. One fellow pianist received an offer from a professional orchestra in Berlin to perform both Chopin concerti in one evening for 100 euros. She was a winner of a few international competitions, and having released a CD with Sony, she was understandably pissed. She rejected the offer, of course, but the director effortlessly found another ambitious young pianist willing to accept, because for this particular pianist, a chance to update his resume was more important than fair work conditions. So for many organizers, it's unreasonable to play fair when there always will be someone ready to be exploited. And very often concert organizers can't even find the necessary funding for the projects. I had to learn how to organize my own concerts myself, and I know how tough grant writing is and how reluctantly all the organizations support classical music. Most concert pianists are victims of one performance curse and have a little or limited influence on what they're going to play. This is when you are invited to perform a specific program for a specific event.
Give us a curse.
Performing each program only once?
Hey Denis, can you play some Chopin for his anniversary? How about the Brahms concerto in a month? Would you be willing to jump in with some Beethoven? In my experience, most years I had to swap between 5 to 10 different programs within one concert season, and those are not easy pieces. Those are big romantic concerti and serious solo repertoire. This means that you spend 50 to 200 hours practicing a specific set of pieces to play them just once. Why does this happen? Because we have tons of amazing pianists. If I say no to whatever offer, they will ask someone else and most probably never approach me again. So I'd better give up on the rest of my life and practice a lot every day in order to meet all the deadlines. The worst in this regards are performances with the orchestra, because the program is usually decided by the conductor or artistic director, and only then they start asking pianists who are ready to accept an offer. This means that 99.99% of pianists need to build a repertoire of at least 20 concerti to advance somewhere. I had to learn 26 concerti so far, and a good half of them were one-time offers with no guarantee I'll ever have the opportunity to play them again. Now, what's the deal with payment? Are all concert pianists rich? Here's where it gets a little bit shaky and frustrating. There are no universal regulations of how much you will earn per concert. Even if you are an internationally acclaimed pianist, you might receive an offer to perform for a couple of $100. Generally speaking, if you are anywhere between 16 and 30 years old, you will fall into the category of emerging young artist, and you're likely to be offered 3-digit figures most of the time. If you break through and become an established concert pianist, you're likely to be offered anywhere between 1,000 and 6,000 euros per night. Of course, if you reach the 1% superstar category, your fees can go infinitely high at times. Now, let's say you are not a superstar, but just in a solid concert pianist category, and you're offered a reasonable $3,000 or euros for a solo performance with an orchestra in some reasonably good concert hall. Is it much? Well, you have to consider the following. You will have to pay 10 to 50% in taxes and compulsory insurances depending on the country. Let's count 20% for simplicity, although I would typically pay around 30-35% most of the time. 15 to 20% goes to your agent. This person is likely to do very little for this event, but you will have to pay them because they chose you to perform at this concert rather than another pianist from the countless artists vying for their attention. But more about agencies later. 10 to 30% will go to your travel and food expenses, as well as buying or dry cleaning your concert outfit, since you will sweat during your performance like you're at the gym. Many organizers offer accommodation, but travel is included in your gross payment. So it's your problem whether you choose to travel to a location riding a donkey or in a business class. In addition, please don't forget that this isn't just payment for 1 hour of work, as many ignorant people think. You'll spend anywhere between 30 and 200 hours preparing this particular program for this specific event. Furthermore, if it's an orchestra or a chamber music performance, you typically would spend almost an entire week because you need 1 day to travel, a couple of days to stay on the spot and rehearse with other musicians, then a day of the show and then travel back. So at least 5 days. And you'll want to avoid generating extra cash during that time, like teaching or twerking live on TikTok, to ensure you're not tired or distracted, as fatigue can easily ruin the show even if you are decently prepared. In reality, this means we have to add an extra up to 40 hours spent towards this project in addition to practice time. So the real reason why we have so many concert pianists is that we are hopelessly in love with music and incredibly poor at math. Well, at least myself, often not counting how much we earn per hour. 1,300 net income divided on 140 hours of practicing, traveling, and rehearsing and performing.
All these years, isn't that something?
Gatekeepers are essentially people who have power to define your future, your career. Jury members of important competitions, agents, important CD labels, influential artists who might choose you as their protege, and important critics. Once I went to a fancy whiskey bar in Lucerne, Switzerland, and I know it sounds like start of a bad joke, but this is a real life experience and it's kind of sad one, where I met an older pal who was alone and sought some interaction. It turned out he was a conductor of one of the leading Italian orchestras, preparing for his performance at the Lucerne Festival the next day, because this is how great conductors prepare to concerts, you know. When he learned I was a concert pianist, he asked directly, "Are you a good one?" I answered without false modesty, because this was not a situation where I could allow myself to be shy. So I said, like, yes, indeed, I'm pretty good. Of course, I felt this might be a moment to give him my business card. No, I'm not interested in your recordings, in your website. I don't have any time for any of that, he said. Who is your agent? He asked me. So in reality, big concert business is divided among a few influential agencies, much like how most of US economy belongs to a few private corporations. So when it comes to performance opportunities, it does matter how you play, to a certain degree. But it's much more important how influential the agent is representing you. Unfortunately, even if you get into the top 1% of musicians who have such luxury, those connections are fragile. You can be as successful as kissing one day, and the next your agency might not like something you say or do, and they can simply put you on a blacklist. And this is what happened to at least 2 very successful concert pianists I personally know. If that happens, there is a high chance that other big agencies will avoid you as well. Many agencies require exclusive contracts. This means that no matter who invites you to perform, you must always inform your agency and pay them most commonly 20% from your fee, even if the agency does as little as sending 1 email for that concert. Some agencies enforce rules that even after you choose to leave them, you must pay those 20% commission fees for a year or 2. There's a very successful pianist who got trapped like this. His agency did very little for him, and he felt he was stagnating with them. So he switched agencies, but he had to pay 20% to the former agency and 20% to the new one from each performance for a while. I had situations where an agent would use their power to force a festival director to withdraw their invitation of me at the last moment and invite a protege of this agent instead. But despite any unpleasant situations, which might feel like insults sometimes, I still have to play nice with these people, and I can't really call them on their previous behavior because I know that they have a power of preventing me of playing in this specific region or country ever again. When I was about 18, I was recommended to a leading, really important German agency by people who were amazed by my performances and had contacts with the chef, with the head of this agency. The agent actually showed interest. They wrote me, "Thank you for your nice recordings, Denis, but of course a live impression is very important. So let us know about your upcoming performances in Germany, so we can listen to you live before making a decision." This was the line that broke my heart at that point, because I had concerts in other countries around Germany, but no connections in Germany whatsoever. After a couple of years, when I finally got some performance opportunities in Germany, of course I approached them again, only to be hit with a wall of silence. So very often a scale of your success depends on luck, since there are only a few really big agencies and a huge amount of talented artists. Nobody is going to put effort into giving you an extra chance. You may ask, of course, why not become your own agent? I know a few people who are good at this actually. They dedicate at least 1 hour every day to writing emails, making calls, and trying to convince festival directors and concert organizers to invite them. Some are reasonably successful. However, it's tough because most gatekeepers simply ignore you if you're not recommended by someone they trust. These are just a few points why this is a tough career to pursue. If you are a performing artist, please add in comments things I didn't mention here, share your perspectives, maybe a word of advice and encouragement. My own survival strategy is in building my own community and business in order not to fully rely on employers and agents. And I am deeply grateful to all of you who support me on my path. As many great musicians, including my own teacher Eliso Versaladze, suggest, one should follow this path only if they can't imagine their life without music. Even though I perform little this year, I practice nearly every day because I love playing. I feel better when I play piano, and at some point I think I will want to perform live more again. In addition to that deep passion required in order to endure on this path, I would suggest to emerging artists to invest in soft skills, people skills, self-promotional entrepreneurship skills, as much effort as in actually practicing your instrument. Many musicians complain nowadays that they had to turn into content creators instead of being musicians. But the truth is that even before the internet, if you wanted to be successful, you would spend a huge amount of time on things not related to music making, such as travels, hanging out with important people, not obviously because you are genuinely interested in them, but because they are influential. Many artists choose to organize their own festivals, have to learn grant writing, logistics, admin, and manage all that stuff. So there are a lot of things that most musicians have to master when they realize that their success is only in their hands. And nevertheless, in case you're really passionate about music, nothing can stop you from finding a way of fulfilling your creative potential, expressing yourself through music, and even make a living out of it. If you are on this path with me, I believe in you, and you have my fullest compassion and support. If you are interested in efficient piano technique and want a comprehensive guidance through most important pieces of the piano repertoire, check out my courses following the link in the description. Thank you for watching this video, and see you next time.